Hello everyone, so Sersi just released into Marvel Snap, and she's surprisingly really fun to play. There are a lot of elements into how and where you want to play her. Of course, you want to play her into a lane that has cards that are kind of low power for their value, but you also want to kind of mitigate any potential negative downsides from those cards. So a 1 cost into a 2 cost can be kind of scary in flipping into a beast, into a carnage, and just accidentally eating your location. A 2 into a 3 can do a deathlock or a few other cards. I've seen both of those interactions happen, not to me thankfully, but I have seen them happen. And then the 4 into 5 sweet spot kind of feels like the perfect range for me. Going 5 to 6, you have to worry about Destroyer. 3 to 4, you have to worry about some potential just unimpactful plays. But 4 to 5, it feels like almost everything is going to be good value. The biggest thing that I can think of that would be a negative deficit would be something like MODOK. But if you're dropping your Sersi on the last turn anyways, you don't have to worry about MODOK discarding your hand. And so today's build is looking at just a junk, clutter, and then clear it up style build. We have several ways to deal with negative cards in our locations, in the Carnage, in Annihulus, and in Sersi. The early game looks to add value onto the board almost every single turn of the game, or to clutter up the opponent's lane. So we can add a lot of value early in the Mockingbird, the Sentry, the Sasquach. All of those can be played potentially by turn number 4 to have just a lot of value out on the board. And then the last 2, you're just looking at clearing up and finding ways to swing those other locations. We also have the kind of clutter component in Debris and White Widow. Both of those are phenomenal at just cluttering up the opponent's board. We've been seeing a lot of Thanos creep back in, a lot of decks that want to run a lot of cards, and so Debris has a surprising amount of value, especially if we're able to use Carnage to destroy it, we're able to use Sersi to potentially upgrade it tentatively. We want to be careful about that, but we can upgrade it if we need to. And then Hood is just a perfect kind of duo package with Sentry Annihilus. And then we have Jeff so that we don't accidentally cap out one of our locations. We can always use him to block a location so that it doesn't get capped out from the opponent's White Widow, from our Debris, or anything similar. And overall, the deck has run phenomenally. I think Sersi is going to be a card that we see kind of resurface from time to time. She has the potential for some really big power swings. But I think the decks that are really going to shine with her are the ones that can really hone in and make sure that you're getting that good value out of the play. And so we're going to go ahead and keep the deck explanation relatively short. Overall, you want to put out high value plays early. You want to junk up your opponent's lane and then just slam it home with an Annihilus, with a Sersi, or even with a Carnage to clear up those bad locations into finding that last turn power play. We're going to go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. Thank you guys as always for being here. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, next up we have Losty, and hopefully they can Losty to us. I don't know. We have a Squirrel Girl into Cloning Vats, which is actually kind of funny as long as they don't have something to block it like an Armor or Cosmo. We can play it twice, and then we can continue using Carnage to clear up the Aftermath. We get free Mockingbirds out of it. Just an interesting line to be able to go with. And so I think what we're going to do is probably play Carnage into Mockingbird, both into the Cloning Vats this next turn. Feels like the line that we should probably go with. But with Lemuria, I do kind of like this as well. That way next turn after everything reveals, we can keep the negative cards in Necrotia. That way after everything reveals, we can do the next Carnage either here or here. Then we have Annihilus to send some negative junk. We're going to go ahead and snap into it. We want to play it aggressively where we can. They do have multiple Thenas, but if we can really restrict how and where they can play, plus we're going to have Carnage that's going to be able to continue to get stacked over the course of the game, which is just going to be really nice value. And then Thena not proccing there is also really, really big. Let's go Jeff, just in case they have any kind of sneaky shenanigans where they're going to try to tap us out of a location, and then we'll see. And so with all 4 of these cards revealing, I'm thinking Theno doesn't proc this turn either. We'll see, but I'm thinking that's the way that it works. So we have Hood, we have Jeff coming down. We will be able to draw, so Angela, Kitty Pryde, all being duplicated. And so White Widow, okay, there is that sneaky potential to cap out a location. We need to clear that one with our Carnage next. And so that's going to be the primary location. Actually, we could just do Annihilus, right? That's so much negative. So many negative cards. And both Athenas did end up actually proccing off of that. All right, let's go second Mockingbird to the left. I'm going to do Annihilus into middle. That way we can draw a card next turn. We have Sersi as a potential backup line, maybe evolving the Annihilus route. They do double down in the left lane. They have a Mockingbird of their own. They have the Kitty Pride, and so they will have a decent push, but middle location is not going to be within winnable range. Their left location is also completely capped out, so that is a very finite amount of power that we have to fight up against. We pushed Annihilus to the right. We could have sent them the negative Widow's Kiss. Unfortunately, it is what it is. But we can do something like Mockingbird. So Sentry 25, 26, 27, 28. This will clear that. This will clear that. And we should have no problem. We should get the retreat. Even though we played this one just a little bit sloppy, we were able to come away with the 2 cubes. Just the pressure that was provided by the Mockingbird, and then a little bit by the Annihilus. We had the backup line of Sersi. If one of these wasn't able to completely clear, we could have evolved them, made it a little bit better. We will take the 2. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Sit. The first location is Muir Island, so I am going to go ahead and play Squirrel Girl out onto the board. That way we get a discount on Mockingbird. We start getting the bonus onto the squirrels as well, or onto the 1 squirrel. We have Carnage to clear up one of the locations. We have Sersi to change another. Let's go ahead and play Jeff. Getting that, just having that mobile monster is so useful. And for Sit, we can now move Jeff over into the right location, which is Kunlun, to get some good value there. I'm going to go ahead and play Mockingbird into mid. We have Sentry and followed into Sersi, which is just such phenomenal value. And so a 4 into Muir Island and then a 5 into Kunlun. We have good average power across the board. And for them not playing for the first 2 turns, it looks decently promising. But they are a Hella deck, and so we have to be hella scared of what that looks like. After this turn, we're going to put one of our cards there, which is unfortunate. We could potentially hit Carnage. We could potentially hit Sersi, which we would rather have in the right location. Ideally, it pulls Sasquach. That's what we're going to praise for, is the RNG gods to do the 1 out of 3 Sasquatch pull into Sakar. We know that it favors them more than it does us. Maybe they can accidentally pull out an early Hella. Carnage is definitely not what we want to see. Blink flipping into Blob, which could destroy their Hella. Their Hella, their Death, and their Jubilee, which is really unfortunate for them to see, really fortunate for us. So I'm going to go ahead and do a Sasquatch into the left lane. I think that's where we're going to be fighting for. We can always move Jeff over into mid, and then Sersi to the right, I think would be able to take it away. And so that's what we're going to be fighting for. Silver Samurai gets rid of our White Widow. It gets rid of their Dr. Doom, which actually could have been pretty helpful for them at spreading power across the board. Right now we have enough power here. Sersi is one that I do want to push, but to be able to win mid, we would have to move Jeff out, which would mean we would lose in this location. I think instead we're just going to do Annihilus mid, and that gives us good value. I was really excited about the Sersi line, about the Jeff moving over to Kunlun line, but I think this is the route we go. So if they can't do...
We are the future.
Okay, that's actually fine. So we lose left. We should win mid with the Annihilus sending that junk over, and we win the right by 1 with just the squirrel from Squirrel Girl holding down the entire lane solo. We grab the 4 cubes against the unfortunate Hella pull. That is why it's always scary to drop Blob into your Hella deck, but we will take it. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have King Venom. And while I was brewing with a different deck, we actually had a very unfortunate... King Venom had a very unfortunate Sersi play that transitioned one of his 1 costs into Beast, and it pulled his entire lane back in on turn number 5. Super unfortunate. The first location here is Monster Metropolis. The second one being Pet Mansion. We do have Sasquatch in hand. We have Annihilus. We have Sentry. So some really good utility here. I like the idea of debris to clutter their board some, but I almost want to do Mysterio first. Mysterio allows us to do a really cheap Sasquatch next turn so that we can at least start getting some power on the board. And then maybe we sneak in a turn 5 debris. But we're going to drop the real Mysterio into the middle location. They did play Pixie on Curves or on 2, so that's going to be potentially scary with the Sersi line. I know that there is one that's kind of floating around, a Sersi Pixie deck, but we'll see if we're able to match up against it. White Widow does come down. We have the Widow's Kiss. We could transition that in mid, but I'm not sure that that's the line we would want to go with. We have Squirrel Girl. We could also do just do Sentry here, but I think we're going to do Sasquatch first into mid. Next turn might be something like Sentry to the left into the Annihilus line, since we do have the discount on Sasquatch. So we're going to go ahead and send that, get a feel for what they're running. They have a Sentry of their own. We have to look out for their Annihilus. We want to drop ours off curve as well. Right now, it doesn't necessarily look like that is what we're going with, so we might be able to surprise them with how much reach we're going to have. I'm going to play our Sentry in the left lane as well. We're also going to play our Mockingbird. That way it goes over their Sentry. We're going to get the extra +3. They're not going to get it. And then hopefully they do something like Annihilus this turn. So in return, next turn, we could do an Annihilus as well. But let's go ahead and send this for now. They could do a Sersi as well into that void, which is always devastating, or always scary, I guess I should say. They do have the Annihilus, which is fantastic to see. We have the potential -16 coming their way, or we don't even have to go with that. We can just go with something like Sersi to turn these into just value on our end. And that is kind of what I want to go with. We have the Annihilus, that's great, but I kind of like the idea of doing this. We have Squirrel Girl coming down here. I'm going to keep this. We have the extra +4 hidden in Mysterio. I'm not going to snap because I want to see this one play out. The 3 cost is very low risk at getting a bad flip, potentially a Green Goblin if they cap out that location. That's unfortunate. At least let us see it play out. We didn't snap on you. Really, the only thing for the 5 cost category that we're scared of seeing would be if we're playing it on 5 or on curve, potentially losing our hand to like a Modok, but otherwise, I think we're perfectly fine. We grab the 1 cube. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have a Radiation Dude. The first location is the Raft, so getting the free Raft resource, we could potentially push for it. We do have Jeff as that kind of mobile card to be able to pull out. I'm not sure if we want to push for it or not. I think we are going to start with Mysterio. I like Mysterio mid. Now with the potential to do Sersi to the right location, I like having the option to choose either left or right, or we could choose mid or right, but a lot of times we're already pushing some kind of weaker cards over to the left, like the Hood. And so with Scorpion, our Hood is extra negative. We can transition those, which is all fine and dandy for me. Monster in the right location. We now have the Squirrel Girl. We can't completely cap it out, but I think we could really damper their day. Debris in the right location is going to send junk here and here. If they play 2 cards and they're trying to get that free Raft resource, we could potentially block them. So Luke Cage, they're not going to be susceptible to negative affliction, but they didn't cap it out either. Oh my goodness, that is so unfortunate for a deck that doesn't like it. And then Jean Grey is also a little bit unfortunate. Well, oof. We have Annihilus, so we can send the negative cards. I think this is our play. It doesn't give us the free Raft resource, but it'll cap them out in mid. Ooh, they don't get the free Raft resource either, so interesting. Their left location is open, but their middle one is now capped out. Cyclops. That is unfortunate. We're not going to be able to overcome a Cyclops, and we've capped out this location. So if we wait a turn, we can actually destroy some of these cards here. But then this is a very telegraphed amount of power. We're hoping that Cyclops hits the Rock and White Widow. Actually, wait.
Opponent snapped.
So the real one is here. So that right now it's 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't think we want to go with the Annihilus line afterwards. Because it'll be 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, a tie at worst. So I kind of want to go Annihilus. Okay, so Man-Thing does hurt our cards significantly, not theirs. Mysterio is gonna clear up the left location, fortunately. And we don't have the free raft resource. They do. This is not perfect, but it may just work. If they use all of their energy this turn, which I hope they do, then we win here, we win here. If not, then we tie mid. And so Abomination, so they're not using all of their energy, are they? And then Galactus. And so not even close to all of their energy. But we win the left by 6, they win the right by 3. We still come away with the tiebreaker. Because of the bad card that they got from the raft, we were able to still hold it down. Thankfully, we had the Real Mysterio in mid, and we were able to grab the sneaky 4 cubes. It was pressed. It was cluttered. We didn't get to use our Sersi again. We want to. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Eduardo. The negative zone is a really good location for our Annihilus. So things like White Widow that normally are a positive power are going to be negative. Things like rocks, normally 0, are going to be negative. We can really start junking up that left lane very, very early on. And so then we only have to focus on finding a way to win one additional location. So Titan, we have debris. I want to go ahead and focus on the debris. We have our Carnage. So if we do Annihilus and then maybe we drop Sentry plus Carnage in the right lane. Sentry somewhere else, Carnage in the right lane on the last turn to get the value there. But we'll see depending on how the rest of the game turns out. They have Wave. Super interesting. I kind of feel like we need to play here in case it's Galactus. We do have Sersi, so on 5, we can always do Sentry. On 6, Sentry plus Hood. On 6, we can do Sersi plus Demon. I really, really like this one. But I'm gonna snap into it. We're feeling fairly confident with the negative zone being what it is. Depending on where they play, if it's Galactus in Kunlun is unfortunate because we are going to protect that one from the play. The left location is completely capped out. Orca is a big one. But unless they have something like Destroyer, they're going to be sorely, sorely, sorely mistaken. Let's play Sentry. Let's do Hood into the right location. Next turn is going to be Sersi plus Demon because we already have the left lane handily locked in place. The Devil Dino to the right is going to be interesting, but we could potentially overcome it depending on what our cards flip into here. And we only need to win one of these two. And so it's either they continue fighting for this one or this one. But we're going to go with this line, even if they did like a Killmonger that clears the rocks, but not the negative in the left lane. Let's go Sersi in the right. There's a couple of chances for duds in the rock or Hood turning into Beast or Carnage, but that should be before the Void changes. And so we should at least have whatever the Void changes into left at the end.
Opponent snapped.
Holy moly, the snapback. 4. All right, so a double drop in mid. We have Sersi coming into the right location. Hazmat is wild. Into Sentinel, into Blue Marvel, which is nice to see. Blue Marvel is definitely potentially going to help us win that middle location depending on what this Jubilee hits. The Infinite, we do win the right location with the big transition over here. We win the left lane with the negativity over there, and we will gladly take the 8 cubes. The Sersi just coming in and just offering so much randomness. But fortunately enough, the Blue Marvel, even though it was on the lower end, was able to give us enough power to win. All right, next up we have Final Boss, Yo Woody MJ. We're going to hit him with the fist bump. And unfortunately, we can't play into Hotel Inferno this turn. Thankfully, they can't either. And I know that they like to brew with the new cards, so we'll see what they're able to cook up here. We do have Squirrel Girl, which doesn't necessarily help our Sasquatch all that much. I think I'm going to hold it, at least for now. We have debris for next turn, but nothing's going to be able to be added into Miniaturized Lab. We don't have the Mysterio, which would have offered the bigger discount on the Sasquatch. Kamar Taj is kind of interesting for this left location. If they play into the left, we can cap them out of that lane. I kind of like it. Hopefully they don't play into Kamar Taj this turn. And if they do, oh, they do play into Hotel Inferno. So we are going to, unless that's a Carnage or something that clears them out, the debris locks them out of that location. At most, it's going to be 13 power in that lane. We do have Jeff, if we wanted to go ahead and use it. I kind of like the idea of doing Jeff and Carnage. We'll go ahead and clear this up, get 6 power in the left lane, get the extra spacing that we definitely need. The Pixie, the double trigger of Pixie, I'm not sure if that randomizes it twice. I don't think it does like shuffle the base cost. Yeah, I don't think it does like negative where it's like an on-off switch. I think it's still going to be shuffled regardless. But I don't have Pixie, so I'm not able to know for sure. So we do have Sentry. Unfortunately, we can't play it into Miniaturized Lab yet, but we have Annihulus that we'll be able to use. And then we have the Sersi as well. So Annihilus or Sersi, I suppose. Let's go ahead and do Sentry. And then I think we're going to do just a gamble in this right lane with the Sersi onto Debris, onto the Void, and onto maybe a Swirl as well. And we do have the left lane locked in place. The double Yellow Jacket locking in the right lane. Very, very interesting choice. And then into Deathlock is not what you want to see. They're not able to draw on this final turn. They've destroyed a plethora of cards, and then Red Hulk comes in, and just unfortunately, they weren't able to get what they needed to get handled. It was just an unfortunate evolution. The double Sersi was a cool idea, but it just ended up backfiring with the Deathlock. So we will take the 1 cube where we can, and that is our final boss play of the day. We were going to go with the Sersi. Every time we could have went Sersi, the enemy ended up retreating anyways. But this deck overall has been able to put people into really tough positions, find really tough ways to make them fight for those lanes, and then you can either destroy or send over the negativity or Sersi change it. You have a lot of ways to take away any kind of negative impact on your side of the board. And so overall, I think Sersi is a really fun card. I think that it's really early to tell, but she has some potential, but there's always going to be RNG involved. And so I think ultimately the best fit for where she's going to find room to shine is evolving those cards that have minimal chance for that downside. That way you can kind of negate any bad RNG that could come out of it and push for that potential upside. So maybe into things like Shuri into Sersi allow you to double it up. Maybe that's the White Tiger doubling it up to a 6 cost, which is always potentially scary with those destroyers in the mix, but that is a 1 pull out of many. So maybe it's worth the gamble, but in this style of shell, I think she offers a lot of value as an alternate way to get rid of the Void, now that a lot of people really anticipate that right location being that negative Annihilus lane. You can flip it, and all of a sudden your -8 Void is a very high power, 20 power lane overall after the Sersi comes down. So I think it's still a little bit early to tell, but I think she has a lot of potential to find just that next phenomenal deck. So definitely keep an eye on her before opening those Spotlight tokens. I'm having a lot of fun. If you like kind of RNG or just the craziness that this style of card provides, she's definitely worth picking up, definitely worth playing just from some of the random things that can happen. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. As always, it's been TLSG. Later, guys.